Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson is with us this morning, president and founder of BOND, the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Democrat line, New Carrollton, Maryland. Good morning.
Good morning. Just like to ask the Reverend, does he feel as though that because an individual tries to bring people together, because the individual fights for rights that people have been denied, because the individual stands up for the dignity of individuals who are sort of put out of society, does he feel as though that person is a bad person? And because that person is a human being and given to all the human failings as other people are, does that make him a demon?
Well, Jesse Jackson is not a good man at all. He called himself a minister, a man that's called by God, yet he commits adultery and have no shame about it. He lied to black Americans and tell them that they can't make it due to racism. Black Americans are not suffering due to racism. They're suffering because they don't have fathers and mothers working together, showing their children generation and generation of how to deal with life. I grew up on a plantation in Alabama, and my grandparents worked with their parents, and so did I. And the thing that blacks had in going for themselves is that they loved what was right. That was more important than anything else. And as a result, we were building a life for ourselves. Today, blacks, for the most part, not all, I want to say not all, but most blacks have no shame about what they do.
Let you back in, caller. Go ahead. Come on.
Can I say something?
Yep. Yeah.
Sir, you can talk as long and as hard as you want. You can stop that old racist line. You sound like a white person. You don't sound like a black person. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what has happened to you. You make it some sort of political push from this, or what it is.
Well, you know, you, sir, are a good example of what's wrong in the black community, and that is most black men are weak. They're not in control of their own life. They don't know how to deal with the black woman. They have no sense of self-control. And until you get a sense of self-control, you're not going to ever get better. It is abnormal for you as a man to look to anyone else to lead you. Who is leading Jesse Jackson while he's trying to lead you? And if Jesse Jackson and Maxine Waters and others can lead their own lives, why can't you lead your own life? Jesse Jackson is a racist demagogue. He is an immoral man. He's a liar. You know, any man that would cheat on his wife cannot be trusted. What we want to do is to show the contrast between Dr. King's dream and Jesse Jackson's nightmare. What Americans have to do, both black and white together, is realize that our warfare is not a warfare between blacks and whites or whites against blacks. It's good against evil, right against wrong. And that's the message that we have to start putting out.
Batesville, Mississippi.
Yes, just, I guess, a few comments. I really can't understand why this gentleman would get on national television with this kind of garbage. I mean, if he doesn't agree with Jesse Jackson, Maxine Waters, or the leader of the NAACP, that's fine. But he shouldn't get a forum where he can come down on people because of...
Why not? This is America. I have the right and freedom of speech. You ever heard about that?
Jesse Jackson will be on this show tomorrow.
You have that right.
So then why should I be here?
When you speak from total ignorance, it means that's the problem.
What do you disagree with me on? Tell me one thing that I'm wrong about. One thing that I'm wrong about.
Here's where you're wrong.
Where?
You'll get a lot of calls.
Where am I wrong about?
Well, let me tell you. You'll get a lot of calls in today agreeing with you because people want to hear this. I mean, you make the point about Jesse Jackson being immoral. I mean,
am I wrong about that?
Listen. In America, there are a lot of people who've had kids out of wedlock, but I don't think you will find a more moral person than Jesse Jackson or Dr. King or Maxine Waters when it comes to trying to espouse the good that black people, the contributions that they've made to this nation.
All right, thanks a lot, Reverend Peterson.
Illegal aliens are coming across the borders by the droves. You don't hear Jesse Jackson or the NAACP dealing with that issue yet. They boycott South Carolina. Since the early 70s, 1973, 13 million black unborn babies have been murdered inside the black woman's womb. 13 million since the early 70s. Abortion is the highest death way of black people dying than any other thing in the black community. They don't deal with that issue. 70% of black babies are born out of wedlock. Yet you don't hear the so-called civil rights leader deal with those issues. Why? They don't care about black people. It's about themselves.
This guy, Reverend Peterson, is nuts. I would complain it was giving the right-wing extremist wackos a platform they do not deserve, but he is so unbelievable he will turn people off from his cause.
You know, I'm not trying to necessarily convince anyone. The truth is enough for itself. And if people refuse to see the truth, then let them suffer. There are those who love the truth, who are seeking the truth. It's those people that we are trying to reach.
The water in Alabama, far too many black Alabama natives who happen to be black seem to think like Reverend Peterson. Dr. King took the same positions, as does Reverend Jackson for the most part. We have too many like you who would otherwise be unrecognized except for their radical views of the world. I don't see a wedding ring. Do you have a wife?
I'm not married, and at this point, not looking for a wife.
Illinois, good morning.
Good morning. I'm calling in. I'm a college student. I've been reading Malcolm X and, Black. I've been following Kwame Nkrumah. And this man that's on, Mr. Peterson, is the ignorantest person that I've ever come in.
What am I wrong about? Instead of calling names, what am I wrong about?
A black man wants to sit here and say that you're going to degrade Jesse Jackson.
Jesse Jackson degraded himself. He cheated on his wife.
Okay, sir, everybody in their life is going to do something that's not right.
But this man is supposed to be called by God.
Can you let me speak? Can you let me speak? You've done things that are not right. Okay, he did that. But you being a black man saying that you're standing for black people, but you're degrading a black man on national TV. That's stupid.
I'm standing for what is right, and what I'm trying to do is to encourage all of the American people to stand for what is right. This is a great country, and it was built on the idea of God, family, and unity, and we got to return to that before it's too late. I mean, there's no other country like this. Where will we go if we lose this? So we got to stand for what is right, not on color.
See you in California. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I appreciate what Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson is saying with respect to trying to reach the truth, but I think he needs to be very careful in terms of casting a very wide net and saying someone outright is immoral. They may be doing immoral things in their life, but I would be very concerned about saying...
What's the difference?
What's that?
What's the difference between being immoral and doing immoral things?
Well, with respect to... because you're not giving any credence to the good things someone is doing in their life.
No,
so I would try to address what it is that's wrong.
I just told you what was wrong.
And not cast a wide net and say flat out someone is immoral.
Well, when a preacher cheats on his wife and seems to have no shame about it, when a preacher teaches racism and divide the people, we fought for school voucher in this last election. The civil rights leaders fought against it. They want to keep blacks in the public school system while they send their children to the best schools. And I've often said, you have to be blind, crippled, and crazy to send your child to a public school system today.
Westville, Georgia, our last call. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
I'm sitting and I'm listening to what you're saying, but in retrospect, you said that you're not a married man, correct?
Right.
Are you celibate?
Yes.
How long have you been?
For 13 years.
13 years. Say, okay, so it's okay for you to preach the immoral ways of Jesse Jackson, but yet and still 13 years of that's good that you are not, but it's good for you to preach and talk about another man. Have you went to your brother and spoke to him personally?
Well, we tried to get Jesse on my radio program, but he refused to come on because he's a coward. He wanted to know was my audience liberal or conservative? What were the questions what would the questions be? He wanted a tape of past shows. He would not come on. Again, I don't care what Jesse Jackson is doing in his own personal life. What I'm concerned about is the influence that he has over the black community. One last point that I want you to realize is that there is an order to life, and I personally believe that order is God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children. And whenever the father is not there or he failed his family, the family suffers. And in the black community, the man, for the most part, is not over his family. He's not the head.